Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, wonderful, wonderful individual. Today, I would like to speak about developing and unfolding inwardly our vessel in such a way that we can over time perceive spiritual and divine beings otherwise not perceived in the present moment. For as we are now, and if we do not develop beyond a certain age in our life spiritually and truly going into, well, discovering and exploring the spiritual, I was looking for the word here, is to be able to always have a certain liveliness and an inner directionary power to you, an inner feeling of love and warmth for life despite all the pains, that even if we are stricken with thorns, we will pluck them out and keep on going, letting those wounds heal, although we will carry them with us. For developing as spiritual and human beings, there is a certain amount of turmoil and chaos, and also, well, one needs to be able to push with a little courage, but not force in a way that it becomes a detriment to us and hurry in fear, but it is about staying consistent and dedicated. When you open yourself up into this love, to this warmth, is where you find the hierarchy, which is constant guides and teachers to us, if we listen to them. For through in silence and meditation and in daily activity in spirituality, that means when you have come to a point where you do not need to remind you anymore of the spiritual or the divine, you are actively perceiving it and are living in it. You cannot live without it, more or less, in your becoming more as aware and as conscious and also as in control as possible of our inner thought world, directing them towards healing and, well, constructive and also building of our faculties. For when we direct our thoughts in a healthy way, we also direct our moral being. We use our feeling to direct and think and perceive with our being, with our soul and spirit. What we build and develop in our own inner being to be able to perceive the hierarchy in this lifetime will also translate over to the next lifetimes, and it will also help the etheric world, for we do always share in on what we explore and go experience in, well, the daily and the long span of our life and so on. So it is kind of like being a scientist and experimenting and coming back and logging what we find out through these experimenting to share with the world and to muse and to use our imagination to, for spiritual science is a combination between science and arts. It is imagination used for beauty and to enhance with warmth and enhance with purpose and life and meaning and divinity. It is deepening life to the immense proportion if we allow it to. For if we do not believe this exists, if we cut it out, we, well, deny ourselves the deepest and most beautiful parts of life, be they deep sorrow of pain or of immense joy, for all of these strengthen and develop our soul and spirit to our next lifetime. And it is about to not let anything crush us in the end, and to keep on living and going on, for the Christ has overcome death, and to be able to live despite holding on to holding our scars on our soul and bodies. For that's what we do. We do have our past with us here in the present, just as we are developing into the future. We are, as I use as an imagination, we are a long stretch of being from past to future to, and we are perceiving it in the present. So becoming alive to the present and having a more direct perception a direct perception of what's going on both inwards and outwards, and being able to hold a balance between the two. So if we are using a spiritual activity that allows us to connect to the spiritual world, spiritual world and realms inwardly, we over time connect it to the outwards, superimpose them, and see that they are not separate at all. They truly are connected to each other, and that the physical is the spiritual condensed into physical form, into the mineral in a sense. But there are far more sublime and finer substances of the higher beings than what we can perceive with our senses. Soul beings, thought beings, will, impulse beings, and so on. There are many different categories of spiritual beings, and to be able to use our imagination and artistic perception to bring life and aliveness, for nothing here is static, mechanical, or still. Everything is alive in its own sense. And that is what we wake ourselves up to by practicing with our own inner vessel. For the world outwardly will not change, and the substance will not transform until we do the same work inwardly to outwards. When all individuals on this planet, that so there is enough of us, and the substance of this earth will start to change and transform and shed the physical that cannot be spiritualized, you see. But it takes time, and this takes lifetimes, and we dedicate ourselves to the higher worlds and to the Lord and to redemption and to developing our own inner being as to have as divine a social interaction with anyone, to hold respect and reverence and awe for the world, but also have a carefulness and a prudence at the same time as courage, as to be able to push on and resurrect when one has experienced something life-changing. For one always need to be aware that there is karma and that we have a choice to make when such things happens. Are we going to wallow? And that is okay. We need to heal, and we need to go through it and reflect upon it and come to the terms. But once that is happening, we need to go on and resurrect and keep on moving. For if not, we experience inner soul. It's a kind of death, for we are crippled and paralyzed in that state. Allowing the Christ, the higher worlds and the resurrection to fill your soul and spirit with life, and knowing that the pain always, defining the silver lining in everything, finding the divine in everything, including karma and pain and suffering, and to be able to actively work on ourselves to, as a result, work upon the outer world. When enough of us have done so, a lot of the suffering stops in the outer world, because a lot of it has to do with behaviors and actions and inner feelings and thoughts towards others and the outer world. When we change that and develop our sense for that spiritual and divine sense of this world, we change our perspective of the world, and we treat it more reverently and devotionally, including individual human beings, including any animal, including any plant, even minerals, to hold a certain respect, and to hold any hatred and disdain and such things to the Lord. For, well, it brings karma too, and it brings inner turmoil that we more often than not cannot do anything about. And if we do something about it when we have the opportunity to, we more or less experience karma for it. For it is really not something that should be in our hands in the first place. It is about living life personally to bring in a warmth and love to the world, but at the same time not letting life overwhelm you. I fully well know that this sounds far more difficult than it is possible, but it is about strengthening that will, strengthening that love for life, despite all the pain, and to be also aware of the pain. For life is suffering, but through the Christ we do find the healing for the suffering. To go on, to keep working, to allow so that the world can become a better place moving forward. For if we constantly are being part of the suffering in the world by complaining about it and not doing anything to develop our own inner vessel, to understand the world and to bring out goodness, love, compassion, and understanding, we won't be able to change anything. To wait for someone to change something for us when we can actively develop ourselves now, inwardly, so we can understand the world, accept certain things, come to terms with other things, allowing for when we understand the world in a much more esoteric and divine sense, we are allowed a certain relief, is the best way of saying it. And it is about holding on to keep on going, and to not also ignore what is presented as hindrances and challenges, but to always holding a certain prayer to the higher worlds to keep us on the narrow path, to keep us on the warm, loving, fortunate path that we have been presented with in our life, and to not waste that inner faculty for love, for it is a gift. As Uguay said, today is a gift. It is why it is called present. And I love that. It is a beautiful statement. From here, we do work on ourselves. We work on from past and observing and reflecting on our past. And from this work we do now, we move forward. And this forward stream, it kind of is alive. So it is not any set future, but it is a future that is always in alignment with what we do in the present moment. It is really simple. So the more we work on ourselves, the more developed we are in future lives and so on. So it is about reaching as far in the future as possible at the same time as working on our scars and our inner world in this lifetime, and to hold a certain thank you and a certain humility and reverence for our higher siblings, which has a much higher vantage point than we have, so they know much more and God knows everything. So having the trust in Him, in Father's will, and following along on His will with as little doubt as possible. We always fight it. We always constantly battle and overcome our inner fears and insecurities. But it is about keep on going, moving on along and holding ourselves alive and keeping our imagination in warmth so our inspiration can come from the higher worlds. They are always here with us, and as long as we ask and pray for their assistance and hold our soul and spirit open for them, they will show themselves in life too, truly. And the Christ is a healing force for all that choose to embrace His being and to come to understand Him as this earth's spirit, this macrocosmic spirit of this earth, allowing us to under Him become macrocosmic ourselves, joining the hierarchy. And I will leave you with this today. May Father, Holy Spirit, Christ, my guide, ancient masters of old, ancestors from every incarnation, bless, protect, guide, and love you, and may you be provided for with all that you need to survive, live, thrive, and being creative, inspirational, and warm and healing to the world, so others also can be the same. One step at a time. One need not be in a hurry. It is a consistent, steady dedication to the higher worlds and to God and to humanity and to this earth and development of this earth. And as long as you hold the faith and you trust yourself, they will give you in increments at your stage of development what you need to grow and develop. They are immensely wise. They are far, far more intelligent and wise than we are. And it is about trusting something to God, you know? And that is what I will leave you with. Thank you so much. Bless your soul and spirit, and may you be safe and sound. Thank you. Goodbye. I couldn't help but put out the video today. I was flooded with inspiration, so thank you. And for listening to me. Goodbye.